Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Fluctus Channel. In recent years, space exploration has moved from just astronomers with telescopes to real-time physical explorations conducted through unmanned robots and human spaceflight. From 1958, when the first U.S. satellite went into orbit, through the founding of the United States Space Force in 2019 and the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope in 2021, America continues to push the boundaries of space exploration. One of the most important and recent tools in the continuing space race is the Boeing X-37 B, which was launched in 2010. Known as an Orbital Test Vehicle, or OTV, the X-37 B is a robotic drone craft which can be launched via specialized rockets before returning to the Earth and landing like a normal flight.
X-37B is a really interesting machine. It's a reusable spacecraft. It is autonomous. It flies without crew. It can be rapidly reconfigured to host a wide variety of experiments, and it can take off from standard launch pads in standard rockets under fairings, and it can land autonomously through public airspace. You add all that up, there's a lot of innovation in this machine.
So far, its longest time in orbit was during its fifth mission from September 2017. That lasted 780 days. The sixth mission, or OTV-6, started in May 2020 and is presently ongoing. The X-37B is actually the first unmanned spaceplane in the American arsenal. One of the things that makes it particularly unique is that it is managed not by NASA, but by the U.S. Air Force's Rapid Capabilities Office. The 3rd Space Experimentation Squadron at Schriever Air Force Base in Colorado uses the vehicle for a variety of different missions, including testing spaceflight conditions. It also serves as a template for reusable space vehicle technologies that might be developed in the future.
The X-37B testbed platform is unique because we can tailor our missions to specific user needs and return experiments back for post-flight inspection. The reliability, reusability, and responsiveness of the X-37B will fundamentally change how we perform future space missions.
The OTV is launched via a special pod attached to an expendable launch rocket called Atlas V. The pod, otherwise known as a payload fairing, protects the X-37B during the launch process. Once in space, the pod breaks open, allowing the X-37B itself to break free while still harnessing the velocity from the launch. At 188 feet long and 12.5 feet in diameter, it has been a towering presence on the launch pad for 2 decades. At launch time, fully fueled and carrying the X-37B, Atlas V weighs an astounding 730,000 pounds. After completing its orbit cycle, ground controls command the X-37B to re-enter the atmosphere. Upon doing so, it will fly back to its home airstrip remotely, executing a perfect landing without the need for any human intervention. Once on the ground, special teams can collect data from the craft before it is serviced and prepared for the next flight. The X-37B is part of a long line of vehicles designed to merge traditional flight with spaceflight. Perhaps the best example of this is the Space Shuttle. First introduced back in 1981 and operated until 2011, the Space Shuttle functioned in much the same way as the X-37B does today. The only main difference is that it was a manned craft with up to 8 astronauts on board. One of the most interesting things about the Space Shuttle was how it was moved from place to place. As it could only glide in the atmosphere, it had to be carried atop the back of a specially modified Boeing 747. The 747 aircraft featured a significantly reinforced fuselage, additional stabilizers, and special attachment struts upon which the space shuttle could sit. Boeing's involvement in space exploration goes further with the Boeing Starliner. Designated the CST-100, the Starliner is a capsule-shaped vessel designed to transport astronauts to the International Space Station, or ISS. Like the X-37B, the Starliner is launched into space atop the nose cone of a rocket. Once there, it will detach from the rocket itself and use its thrusters to continue its journey to the ISS. The spacecraft is intended to fit around 7 crew members, as well as food and other necessities. Once their time aboard the space station is complete, the astronauts can return to the Starliner, detach, and re-enter the atmosphere. In May of 2022, the second major test was performed. And the success of the mission speaks much for the future of aviation as a whole, with the prospect of commercial flights to low Earth orbit.
This is a momentous day in NASA's history and just paving the way for the future as we start enabling commercial flights here in low Earth orbit while NASA pivots to the moon and eventually on to Mars.
The endeavor will continue with further crew tests. Those are expected to happen by the end of the year 2022. As with the X-37B, the Starliner was primarily designed to replace the NASA Space Shuttle program, which ended in July 2011. Having been around for 30 years, the Space Shuttle program led to countless advances in science and technology. However, the loss of 2 crews due to technical failures marred the otherwise successful program and encouraged NASA scientists to search for different methods of facilitating space travel. After its 135th and final mission, the shuttle was permanently decommissioned.
And the shuttle was sort of iconic. You know, there weren't many spaceships that looked like it. There weren't any that landed like it. And I think it had become sort of so commonplace. Yeah, you know, this shuttle flies 6 times a year. It has done it ever since I was a little kid or even before I was born. And I think it just became a bit of a surprise to the world that, wow, it's not going to fly anymore.
Fans of spacefaring technology, however, need not despair over the end of the Space Shuttle program. Aside from the development of vehicles like the X-37B and the Boeing Starliner, there have been major advances in the field of rocketry as well. Perhaps the most dramatic example is the SpaceX CRS-11, also known as SpaceX-11. This is a 20-feet reusable rocket. It was built for commercial resupply service missions to the International Space Station. It's also the first commercial spacecraft to be granted this important resupply contract by the U.S. government. The knowledge acquired by these machines during their space missions provides humanity with more knowledge about the vast 13 billion-year-old universe outside of the visible sphere. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our new content. See you next time.